Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are handling lesson 65, and this is on descriptive Flexfields, DFFs. Victor, please walk us through.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to a session on descriptive flex fields in our Oracle Financials Functional Training. So we hope to look at what descriptive flex fields are and how we use them in Oracle. We are going to focus on descriptive flex fields, but first let's look at what flex fields are in Oracle in general. So this is a technology that allows us to store more than one value in a single field, okay? So what does this mean? It means that assuming that this is a screen on Oracle and this is a field where we can enter a value, when we select this field, it explodes into different other fields, and then we can enter multiple values in these multiple fields that pop out. So this is basically what the FlexField technology is. It allows us to store more than one value in a single field, the single field being here, and then when we select it, we have other many fields where we can enter information. So in Oracle, we have two types of flex fields. One is a key flex field, and the other is descriptive flex field. The technology is similar, but what is the difference? The difference is that key flex fields have they are built into the application and have functional implications on the Oracle applications. Okay. However, descriptive flex fields, though they use the same technology, they don't have any functional implications, and basically what they allow us to do is to store extra information, and we do this without having to do any extra programming, okay? So you don't have to tell your developers that because you want to store extra information, then go and make these changes on the back end so I can do it. DFFs, as they are called in short, they allow us to do this without any need for programming. And of course, this is very convenient because the Oracle developers, they cannot predict all kinds of information that you may want to capture. And so this DFF technology is convenient in that you can customize DFFs to enable your organization to capture different dimensions of information. But the thing to note is that DFFs have no functional implications, but rather are just allow us to capture extra information. And key flex fields, they do have functional implications. They are built into the functionality of the Oracle applications. So let's just go to Oracle and maybe take a quick look at what a key flex field looks like. We're going to look at a key flex field, and let's query some journals. Let's take any journal here. So this is a very good example of a key flex field, and this of course is derived from our accounting key flex field, which we use to create our chart of account structure. Okay, so if you select this line here and click or press Control L, this is exactly what we are talking about. This is a single field that contains the code combination, or what we call an account combination in this case. A combination can be anything else. It doesn't have to be just accounts, okay? I mean, depending on the flex field that you're using. But what I want to show is that we have this one field that contains the whole code combination, but in essence, we know that we enter multiple values in different fields, okay? So this is a very good demonstration of this illustration here, whereby we have one field, assuming this is the Oracle screen, and then when you click this one field, it explodes into multiple other fields where we can enter multiple values. So that's an example of a flex field. In this case, it's a key flex field, specifically our county key flex field. Now, as we're going to see, DFFs or descriptive flex fields, they basically work in the same way. Okay. So how do you identify a field where you can have a descriptive flex field? When you see this particular bracket symbol, there is a place where you can have a DFF. Okay, you can define a descriptive flex field for that particular section. And in fact, DFFs can be created at multiple blocks of a screen. And what does that mean? What do I mean when I say they're created on multiple blocks of a screen? For example, if you look at this particular screen, the journal entry screen, you can see you have this bracket symbol here at the header section of the journal, and you also have the bracket symbol here in the line section. Okay, so you can create a DFF for the header section, and you can also create a DFF for the line section. So that's what, and actually they're called blocks. The correct term is blocks. So you can create a DFF for the block, and maybe create is not the right word. Basically, you can go and configure for it to show the particular information that you want it to display and to store. For example, if we click here, we can see that a DFF has already been defined for this particular block, and it shows, and the information that whoever created this DFF or defined this DFF for this section wanted to capture is some additional comments and maybe the purpose of the journal. Here it hasn't been enabled, so even when you click, nothing comes up. So this is the symbol where you can identify whether you are able to create a DFF for a particular block on a screen. And DFF functionality is available on very many blocks throughout Oracle applications. So what do we need to do in order to create a DFF? First, we need to identify the screen or the block where we want to do it. And then we follow this navigation that will take us to what? To that screen where we can define or we can configure the setup for that particular DFFs. Okay. So let's straight go to this navigation, setup financials, flex fields. Instead of key, we select descriptive, then segment. Close this. Setup, financials, flex fields, descriptive, segment. So this is the screen where you configure DFFs for whichever your block of interest, whichever place you want to store extra information about. Okay. Perhaps what you should notice here is, maybe it will help with your understanding, is just it's very almost very similar to the key Flexfield screen that we already know through configuring our accounting Flexfield. Okay, so you have the application field and you have the title field. This option to freeze the Flexfield definition and the segment separator. In the key flex fields, you don't have this context field, right? Because as we said, key flex field is built into the functionality of the Oracle applications. So these are some of the changes that are not options that are not available on that particular type of flex field. Maybe it would be good if we just go there and see. We are familiar with it, but we already we can check. So you can see this is for the key flex field, again application, and then the flex field title, and then the structures, right? So this is where we create our chart of account structure, and even here you can see we have the option to freeze and unfreeze the flex field definition and the segment separator. So it just goes to show that this is basically the same technology at work, but different purposes. So let's go back to our descriptive flex field segment. So the block where I want us to create or to configure a descriptive flex field for is for this particular screen here, budgets, define, organization. So I want us to use this to enable this particular DFF, right? So we have budget organizations. If we query them, we have two, I believe, under Maskani. We have one Maskani developers and we have one Maskani property. We know budget organization is just a grouping of accounts for which you can assign budgets, okay? So under Maskani developers, we have accounts belonging to company 001 Maskani developers, and Maskani property management, we have accounts belonging to company 002, which is Maskani property management. So supposing we want to capture information such as maybe these budget organizations are under different managers or something like that. And that's information that for the company we are doing the implementation for is important. And they might want to capture that information using this DFF here. So we can go and configure this DFF to show that information. Here we can enter that information and store it. So when you click this place after we've done the configuration and enabled it, then you'll be able to see that information about the manager for this budget organization. So let's go back to the Flexfield screen. Financials, Flexfields, descriptive segments. So we know that we are doing this in our GL module. So application is going to be general ledger. And we know that the flex field belongs to a block or the screen for budget organization or defining budget organization. So we know it has to have the word budget in there. So we're just going to use wildcards and budget and see what we get. See. Right. So these are the various blocks or screens where you can create or you can define DFFs, budget types, budget versions for budget control group rules, the budget definition page, at the budget organization assignment ranges. So I believe the place where we want to do our example is this one: define budget organization and organization. All right. So we are only able to enter to make changes to this particular flex field because it's not frozen. So just like the accounting flex field, in order to make changes, we have to unfreeze the flex field definition, and then after we are done, we freeze it so that the changes can take effect. Okay, but for now, since nothing has been defined there, then this can remain like this without freezing. So after we define whatever we want to define here, then we can come and freeze the flex field definition so that our changes can take effect. We have this context field over here, all right? We are going to talk later about what we call context sensitive flex fields, whereby you can define, depending on the context, then it allows you to capture different dimensions of information. So it's something that we are going to look into. And then normally, we have under this context field. So for this prompt, this is something that you can change. Okay. So when we went to that, but the actual budget organization, define budget organization screen, and we clicked on those brackets for the DFFs, nothing came up. Okay. The reason is that this displayed button has not been selected. All right. So when you select this and when you select this displayed button, then this prompt will be displayed as the information that you can capture for your DFFs. Okay. And when you freeze this flex field definition. So let's select displayed and select OK. And let's go and see whether that's true. So let's go to budgets, define organization, and let's see what comes up. So let's query Mascani. Okay, it seems since we haven't defined anything, it's still not coming up, but that's fine. We are still going to see how our DFFs work. So just ignore that for now. Let's close this and go back to our DFF screen. Financials, Flexfield, Descriptive segment. Query again that budget page belongs to a general ledger. And query budget. Let's go down to organization. We had frozen this flex field, so let's unfreeze so that we can. Okay. So just remove this displayed option, and we will see why. Now, we are going to define the multiple fields which pop up here, okay? So these are going to be our segments, okay? So when we select that particular in the brackets, okay, when we select the field in the brackets, the DFF, it's going to pop up into this extra field, okay? The fields will ask us to show the particular information, to enter the particular information, extra information that we want to capture, all right? So we are going to define those under this global data elements, okay? And like I said, we have others which are called context-sensitive DFFs, which are different from global data elements, and we are still going to look at this in depth, but what this basically means is that when you define your flex fields segments under the global data element, they appear irregardless of the context, or they will appear on every time you go to that block where you have enabled this particular DFF, then the segments that you had defined under this global data elements context will appear. Okay, so select this global data element and go to segments. Again, this is just like the segment summary page for a key flex field. When we are creating a chart of account structure, this is where maybe you would enter 10, and then one would be company, and then the other one would be account, then the other one would be division, so on. So this is we're going to do it in the kind of the same way. So 10. So for a budget organization, you want to capture maybe who is the manager in charge of that particular budget organization, all right? So this segment, what we wanted to show, manager name, window prompt, just like in the key flex field, it auto-populates itself. Under the column, instead of column, we have attributes, so select attribute 1. Now, under value set, we are going to see later that you can, just like for the key flex field, the way we attach a value set to our segment, you can do that here too, okay? We don't want to do that right now, so what options do we have? We're going to use this, we can say a seeded value set that comes with Oracle. So enter 20 and click tab, and the one we have here is, we want is this 20 characters, okay? So this is a kind of special kind of value set whereby the validation is none and the size is 20 characters. But what do we mean by the validation is none? It means that users can enter any values in that particular field, all right, as long as they meet these conditions. It has to be 20 characters or less. So remember, like in our chart of account structure and the value sets that we attached there, users have to pick values from a list of values that we put in our value set, okay? But when you use this special value set, users can enter anything as long as it meets this particular size description, okay? So select OK there. Let's say we also want to capture the manager's telephone number. manager phone, pick attribute 2, and use the same value set. There's something more we need to do here. Click on open. This is that particular segment, and under this validation section, uncheck this required. What this does is that it prevents the users from having to enter information in that particular field. So if you leave it as required for validation, then it means that the user can enter anything there, but they have to enter something. Okay, and we don't want that. So if you don't want that, you come in and check this required button under that segment and save, and do the same for the second segment. Go to open and uncheck the required button, save your work, and close, and save. So what happens when we go to that particular field, particular page, the define budget organization, we are going to see that symbol for the DFF. When we click on it, it's going to explode into those two segments that we have defined. One is manager name, and the other one is manager what? Telephone. Okay. So that's what we expect. So you can freeze your Flexfield definition for the changes to take effect. Select OK. And close this. Yes. And the DFF will be compiled and has completed. So let's go back now to that page and see what happens. Define organization. Now there it is. Okay. These are the two segments that we created. And as you can see, it is a white field, so not compulsory. All right. And now here you can enter, for example, if it's for Mascani, we have our two budget organization, Mascani Developers and Mascani Property. And let's see. Okay, so we already have information here. This is because we had already done this, but we had a problem with the video, but it's the same kind of information, and you can see the segments are the same. All right, so this is how the DFFs allow us to capture such information. So you can enter the manager name, and let's see what we have under Mascani Property, a different manager name and a different phone number. So you can enter these any values here as long as they are 20 characters or less. Now let's go back to segments. Screen. This is budgets. So this is the one we just made changes to. To make changes again, you need to unfreeze. Okay, so if we select this displayed option, let's see what will happen. So click on displayed and freeze Flexfield definition, close. Budget organization. So this is what happens. That prompt is also added there. The more info, okay? And if you have a list of values, then you can select the value. So we're going to see how this comes into play when we are looking at context sensitive DFFs. Go back to our slides. All right. So context sensitive DFFs is our next thing that we are going to look at. So what are context sensitive DFFs? Basically, as the name suggests, it depends on the context, what fields will be shown or exploded when you're using your DFF, okay? So, for example, if you have a good example to use is on the journal's screen, okay? The journal header screen, okay? So, for example, you want to define something on the DFF on the journal's header screen. So you can have it such that if the journal is for a particular purpose, maybe such as borrowing, okay? So the journal shows some the organization borrowing some money from a bank, okay? So when you enter that particular context, then which is we can say is context 1, right? Then the fields that are this is the field that is exploded, okay? If you have a different context, maybe the journal is for another purpose, okay? Maybe it's a particular fees that journal is showing particular fees, okay? When you enter that particular purpose, then the DFF fields that are exploded are these two, okay? So in the first context, the DFF gives you one segment. In the second context, the DFF gives you two segments to enter information. And this now is something that you define by yourself, okay? So I believe that's what we already have for our journals. Okay. So we review this journal and we select here, okay? I have already looked at the DFF defined for this particular block, right? And you can see here you have you have additional comment and purpose. All right. So if you want to enter this additional information, so if you enter, for example, purpose is whatever has been defined here, then it will explode to more fields where you can capture that information. All right. So because a lot has been done on this page, let me see whether there is another block where we can see this functionality of context-sensitive DFFs. Let me see whether there's anything else under budget. So budget, define budget. Okay. Okay. So current. All right. So we can also define a DFF here. Let me go and see what that looks like on the actual Flexfield page and see whether we have anything we can work with. So also on the budget, budget versions or budget types. Define budget. Okay. So I believe this is the page. All right. Now, in order to create a budget, a context-sensitive DFF, we have to enter new what? New context field values. All right. So, for example, going back, let's close this and go back to this budget, define budget. So for example, if we want to use this DFF and we want to say that if the status is current, so we query our budget. So we have various status of budget. Okay, so we have current and we have open. Okay, so supposing we want to use these DFFs to say that if the status is current, then we want to store what? Maybe the manager telephone number only, or the manager name. Okay. But then, or the manager name and the telephone number. All right. But if the budget is just an open budget, then we only want it to have just the manager name or employee ID or something like that. Okay, so different context. So if the budget is current, we want to capture the name of the manager and the name of the telephone number. But if the status is open, then we want the DFF to show just what? To show just the employee ID. Now it's not going to be dependent on what is showing here, but rather it's going to be dependent on what we actually define in our Flexfield configuration. So we'll see what that means. So let's go back to that page, set up financials, Flexfield, descriptive, and then segment. So function F11. What is this? Budget. So on the define budget page is where we want to do this. So now we want to replace this context here with status. Okay. So the prompt we are going to get is status. When we select the status, then it's going to explode to the particular segments that we are going to define. All right. So one status we want to define for is current, and the other one we want to define for is what? Is open. So let's enter current here. The code name auto-populates, and you can just enter here current budget. Now when you go to the segments, you can enter 10 there. What do we want to show for current? Maybe you want to show manager name. Don't pay too much attention to the logic. Adjust the overall concept of DFFs. Maybe this particular information may not make sense in the context of defining the budget, but I just want to show you how this works. So let's say manager name, that populates itself. So here, because of let's enter attribute 1, and we are going to use the same value set, 20 characters. We also want to capture telephone number, manager phone. Select attribute 2 and select the same kind of value set. Go and change the validation like we did last time, so that we don't have to enter values there. Rather, we just have the option to, and do the same for this. And save. Now we have defined one context. Okay, so we have to define the second context, which is open. All right, this is open budget. Then go to segment. So when the budget is open, what do we want to capture? Maybe we just want to capture employee ID. Okay. Select attribute 1. We want to use the same 20 character value set. Right. Go and change the validation. The reason we are doing this is because if you leave this with the validation required, and other users maybe who are training on the instance are doing their budget creation and all that, then they will go to that page and they'll have to enter something there, even if that's not what they are actually using. So that's why we are removing this validation, so that we don't inconvenience other users, but also you're learning how it works. So save that. So what we are saying is that when you go and click on that particular descriptive flex field on that define budget page, all right, we are going to get a field there that prompts us to enter the status. When we enter the status as current, then it's going to explode and ask us to, it is going to give us these two fields, okay? But if we enter the status as open, it's going to ask us to just enter employee ID, right? For this to make to take effect, we have to freeze our Flexfield definition. All right, so let's go and see whether what we have done has worked. So let's go to budgets, define budget. Now, so the prompt is what? Status, okay? So let's enter open here. Okay, that didn't work. All right. When we enter open, we get employee ID, right? And we can enter, actually let's use it for our own budgets. Close this and come here again. We have Mascani. All right. So this is current, right? So when you click here, you have to enter your status first. So this is current. So when it's current, it's going to ask you to enter the manager name. All right. So we can here enter here James John or something like that, and you enter the phone number. All right. Okay. Now let's go to our other budget, and we can also enter. So that one was current, right? So this one is open. So we have to select open here. Okay. Now when it's open, it only asks us for employee ID, and we can enter there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just want to emphasize that the way we have done ours, these open and current options have nothing to do with what we are seeing here. We are the ones who are actually telling this DFF that this is an open budget, right? So it has nothing to do with what is showing here. It's just the context that we have used in our implementation. There are ways where you can link, okay, what you see on your DFFs with other fields, basically called reference fields. But the way we have done it here right now, we are the ones who are giving this context. So we have to say here that it's open. And then with that, the system knows what to show in the second field, right? So that's it for context-sensitive DFFs. You can try and implement this on other pages, perhaps even on the journals. On the journals header page will be more easy to make sense of it, because there you can enter journals and say this is for borrowing, and then you can be able to define a sensible DFF. The reason why I did it on this budget page is because already a lot of users have defined DFFs there, so I just wanted a place to do a clean setup. But you have seen how DFFs work. Anyway, that's a good place to end our session today. So unless, Bob, you have something to add, we can stop there.
I think I'm good. Thank you so much, Victor.
Thank you.